Hello and welcome to Taking Liberties Radio episode 32 for season 5. My name is Lee. I am in WA. I am joined by Vikas in Canberra.
Hey.
Okay, there was a bit of delay there. I thought something went wrong. This week, maybe you're still raiding in Warcraft. I don't know.
No, I'm not. I stopped. I am playing with.
Do you want to give it a quick review for our listeners? Is the new expansion worth it? Okay.
Is the expansion worth it? So if you've played Legion, no, it's pretty much just the same thing. But if you haven't played Legion and you want to experience all the best stuff about Legion and some of the worst stuff from other expansions.
Wow, what a glowing review. All the stuff from Legion plus all the worst stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is the grindiest expansion they've released since Classic WoW.
Then it's definitely not the game for me. I can't think of anything worse than grinding. It just doesn't do it for me. Anyway, speaking of grinding, I can't think of a way to shift over. So this week we're going to be talking about the police want to be able to control your car, and we're also going to talk about Brett Kavanaugh and the US Supreme Court nomination
grinding
shenanigans
to a halt.
Debacle. Yeah, that's pretty good. Grinding to a halt. Grinding everybody's gears. I'm sure there's a myriad of other ways to express. I don't know if there's anybody who's actually happy with how it's played out. So we'll get to that. We'll try. Yeah, the Kavanaugh thing. I think everybody's upset.
Well, we'll start with the cops because nobody likes it.
Yeah, start with the cops. Yeah. So our good and trusty, faithful men and women in blue wanted to look out for. Of course, they think, what's the best way to stop a police pursuit? Let's take over people's cars. Let's take control of their cars and force them to stop. Because nothing could possibly go wrong. There's no possible downside. It's just pure blue skies. Vikas, why do you hate freedom? Why do you hate the police? And why do you think...
So it's not entirely a bad idea. Look, to be perfectly fair, it's not coming from completely unsound concepts, right? Like, so we have this when it comes to aircraft already. Like, there are ways to turn aircraft off. Granted, no commercial airliner uses it. They're used for like drones, right? So sure. there are ways to remotely stop vehicles in a safe manner. Now,
yeah, but drones are also remotely piloted, so.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going to get into it. You can turn it off remotely, but it's also remotely piloted. So the concept of like an RC vehicle is not entirely unheard of. But so I think this represents a lot of what, as far as I can tell, the Law and Order ticket kind of comes from. There's an idea about safety, right? Like, hey, wouldn't it be safer if instead of chasing someone, we just remotely controlled their vehicle and stopped it? Now, yes and no. So, yes, it would be safer than chasing them, but no, it's not the best thing to do because once you've turned off someone's engine, they no longer have control of that vehicle, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, the engine's off, but the car's still got inertia. It's still got momentum.
Yeah.
So, they've got two options, either braking or now that they don't have the ability to accelerate, they're probably not going to hit the brake. They're going to try and see if they can hold momentum for as long as possible. And that means if there's a turn or something that they have to do, they're going to do it in a very unsafe manner. So it might end up causing more accidents than stopping.
Exactly. Well, especially when you factor in that, like, if you kill the power to the engine, you lose power steering. I mean, that's another.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a huge thing. Like, most people would not have driven a car without power steering, and if you want to experience it, anytime you have to turn a steering wheel without the engine going, it's just a nightmare. So, I'll just quote so this is coming from a police, like a cop in Queensland is in a critical condition because of a high-speed chase. He basically got hit after setting up road spikes. And this is the words from the police union president in Queensland, because of course it's the police president union of the police union. He says the primary situation is to protect lives and property. It can improve safety. It is a great thing. It's a no-brainer. We need to change the Australian design regulation. Within 5 to 10 years, there will never be another police pursuit. We'll be able to disable any stolen car at any point in time and ensure safety. It is common sense. Now, Notice what he doesn't say. Any sort of cost, any sort of design issues, any sort of downside whatsoever. There's nothing in what he says that says, hey, maybe this might not actually work out the way we want.
Well, what he hasn't actually mentioned is a security issue, because now once you've given remote control to a car, right, all of a sudden, I don't know if the cops have realized this or not, but it grants every driver in the country, once you put this remote control device in, right, almost to get out of free jail pass when it comes to a lot of driving offenses, because these units can malfunction.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, oh, what happened there? And it's just like, well, the unit that was put in there malfunctioned. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Right? And there's no way for them to disprove. Like there is ways for them to disprove that, but then the next iteration, it's just going to end up making cars super expensive, right?
Yes.
Because you're going to have this complete IT security solution on top of like this immobilizer unit that then the cops have to make sure criminal organizations don't get access to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, so later on in the news article I'm reading, the same guy from the police union says, once ABS and airbags were designed to be only for the elite car, or considered to be only for the elite cars. Well, yeah, that's because they're really expensive. Like, there's a reason why that technology is only just now really starting to filter down. It's because these sorts of things take time to get cheaper, and so essentially
and not just that, but even if it's a good idea, right? The implementation of those good ideas may not be the best possible. Right?
Yes.
So, for example, people might not know this, but heated seating, right? People see heated seating in cars all the time now, right? But they first came out, I'm not even kidding, in Cadillacs, way back in 1967.
Oh, yeah,
right? Yeah. And back then, they were really bad, right? The seats would catch on fire. There would be radiator leakages causing like the leather on those caddies to become spoiled. Like it just wasn't done well because it's not the best implementation, because they didn't have a concept of induction coils and things like that. Or rather, they had those things, but they didn't really have the best possible. That wasn't in a very compact and there's a lot of tech improvements that have happened since then, which have made that technology, firstly, much more affordable, and secondly, much, much more safer.
Well, I mean, even in the US, I know there's been examples of various forms of safety devices malfunctioning, causing people to die. So, cars that lose power at high speed. There's been a number of sort of individual particular cars that have had to recall because something went wrong electronically and something terrible happened. And this is just like what this guy's suggesting is just adding another thing in that might malfunction. And yeah, as we've said, like if you were to lose power at high speed, that would be disastrous. Like if the thing went on the fritz, like if the mobilizer unit
exactly happened.
Yeah.
There were court cases in America where exactly that happened. It was a Ford, if I remember.
Yeah, I think we're thinking the same thing then. Yeah, so it's not just this. It's not a slam dunk. That's what I mean. This I guess gets into the issue of how politics operates, which is probably going to come into it more when we talk about the Banking Royal Commission at some stage. Which is people have these dreams. Oh, we want the world to be like X. Let's just do it. We need to do something. This is something. Let's do it. And it's not like there's no consideration for any potential downside. Like there's this. I mean, and a police union president is a political actor. Like he's not. I mean, nominally it's a union as a private organization, but really they exist to lobby government.
But like it's not that I don't see. The thing is, I don't disagree with his stop cops dying on the road. I agree with that. Cops should. And I think the best way to do that. So, look, we've gotten a lot better in terms of like following people as they drive away with stolen cars, right? Like we've got plenty of video camera. We can pretty much track those people. And the great thing, to be perfectly honest, right? Most of these people are idiots with like mobile phones. Sorry, you don't even have to go and track their mobile phones. You can actually just track the car because most cars have a GPS unit in there. So,
yeah,
I don't see why you need the immobilizer when you have the GPS coordinates of the car anyway from that GPS tracker.
Yeah.
So you can follow exactly where that car's going.
Sure.
And I think they
and in this instance, the news article mentions that it was a 16-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl who were behind the wheel. Well, presumably one was behind the wheel and one was the passenger. So,
yeah,
if you think, okay, how do we want to de-escalate a situation potentially with juveniles? Well, driving at them at high speed or setting up roadblocks or doing other crazy, doing other things to try to catch them like that is not going to help them because they probably only know how to drive stolen cars. Like it's, and this is not GTA. This is, it's really dangerous to be chasing those kinds of people. You're much better off to just say, let them go. We'll track them down some other how. Some other way. Yeah. So it's better to even let them get away. Like it's better that, that they find the car later on, whatever's happened to it, maybe it's been stripped, whatever. There's an insurance claim to be had there. That's awful for the person involved, but hey, it's just insurance.
That'll just push up the premiums. But look, I don't think that's necessarily right. But at the same time,
so do you think they should be doing high speed chases?
No, I want them to play it by ear. If it's safe to go after someone, absolutely, right? But it's a play by ear situation. Like in some situations, right, the person might not be confident, right, and just keeping a safe distance behind them might be enough to force them to eventually pull over, right?
Yep.
So you don't need to do like a high speed, like Hollywood style chase every time. And the thing is, the cops generally, from what I've seen, generally they play it by ear, pretty much how I'm describing it, because they kind of they have a self preservation. They're not like the cops in the movies we see. So look, I think what needs to happen is cops need better training in the tools that they have, right? And in terms of giving them new tools, I think, yes, you've got things like cameras, which are already there. They need the tools to be better able to use that to chase people down. Similarly with GPS tracking, they've got the tools already, but the better training for that would be better. I think better training and a better strategic focus on using the tools that they have will probably get them better outcomes than potentially increasing the danger to drivers via security threats and like making them lose control of their vehicles in a very like they're going to get better outcomes.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
like I said, I don't think there should be a hard and fast rule. I think sometimes it makes sense to chase someone. I think sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think as much as I don't want the cops to have drones, this seems to be the kind of thing where like drones would be a cheaper way of doing the pursuits because you can just have them way up in the air where the people being pursued are never going to see it because obviously you can't stare through the roof. You can just track them at a distance, and then just follow them once they actually stop.
That's what they used to use the police choppers for.
Yeah, which obviously, that's what they do use it for. But that's obviously a much more expensive way of doing it. Of course, then you get the issues of cops with drones can also do bad things, but that's a separate discussion. I mean, I'm just of the view that it's high speed pursuits.
Everything that can help cops can also be used.
Yes, exactly.
That's something that we do.
Yeah. All right, well, let's maybe move on to the Kavanaugh thing because there is a lot to talk about. So if somehow you don't have any understanding of international politics or US politics in particular, and have somehow just missed the last couple of weeks of US politics, Brett Kavanaugh is the...
You lucky bastard.
Yeah, yes, I would heartily agree with that. So Brett Kavanaugh, he is a federal court judge who's been nominated to replace the retiring... Kennedy? Which Kennedy? There's a Kennedy anyway. Who's in the Supreme Court. And basically it was a bit of a shit show to begin with, and then it's turned into complete farce because after he'd given his testimony, after he'd faced the Senate, I think it must have been Judiciary Committee, but anyway, he faced questioning in the Senate.
It was the nomination committee.
Yeah. Then there's been a series of allegations of sexual impropriety of various sorts, all of them involving claims from a very long time ago. All of them seem to have very little actual physical evidence tying him to any mysteries.
Hang on. So there's one main one. By the way, I know you're on your media blackout sort of thing, and you probably hadn't caught up. But one of his accusers is currently facing a criminal court case on their false allegation.
Oh, okay. I did not hear that, but I was aware of most of the rest of it. But I wasn't aware of that. So I'll try and bring up a list of it. So basically, it began with an allegation that he had sexually assaulted a woman at a party when they were in high school. So he and one of his friends, who's a political commentator, essentially got drunk and sort of pinned her down. Christine Blasey Ford is her name. She's a professor of clinical psychology. And she essentially sent a letter to one of the ranking Democrats on this committee in July, I think it was. Feinstein. Yep, Dianne Feinstein. It was then, she didn't do anything with it. And then on like the last day of his testimony, sent it to the FBI, which then started this. There's been other accusations. Deborah Ramirez, the next one. I can't remember the nature of her claim, but then the third claim was that.
So this was when she was working under him, and she basically made that claim. So she's the one that there's currently something going against her. So
that's right. No, she claimed that he put his dick in her face, like he basically thrust his penis in her face, causing her to touch it without her consent as she pushed him away. Yep. And then there's been a third allegation, which was essentially he was present at parties where there were gang rapes being.
No, that's the same. No, that's Ford. That's Ford's one.
No, that's Julie Swetnick.
Swetnick?
So Christine Blasey Ford said that she was attacked by Kavanaugh. Like, he pinned her down, tried to pull her pants down while he was drunk. Deborah Ramirez says that in college, she basically exposed himself and whatnot. And then Julie Swetnick is the third one. She claimed that he was present at parties where there were gang rapes being taken. So she's not accusing him of being involved of gang rapes, just he was there when they were happening.
Okay, so the one I heard, the one I know that there's a case on is there was an accusation that when he was working as,
it was like 1998 or something like that.
Yeah, that one, yeah. And that one has since been retraction. Yeah, they're taking actions against that.
Yeah. So the unifying thing is all of them are involving claims of when he was young, so either in high school or just out of high school, 30-something years ago. There's been no witnesses have come forward really to say that could confirm anything.
Well, it's actually worse than that. So Ford's accusation, so she named another woman and two men as witnesses to the attack. And basically all three of them, the two men and the woman basically said that wasn't their recollection of claims. That wasn't their recollection of events. The media has spun this as saying it didn't exonerate Brett Kavanaugh, but it definitely didn't help her case.
Yeah.
And I kind of sat there going like, well, no, Brett doesn't need to be exonerated. She needs to prove her case. It's kind of how it works. It's not. So
I guess this gets into the question of like what sort of standard, because this is not a criminal trial. Like, you're right in saying if there's any serious claim, this should go to the FBI. And actually, the FBI, some of this stuff has been referred to the FBI, and they are getting involved. And it's unlikely they'll find anything because there's nothing to find because it was 30 years ago, and everybody's people don't remember that far back. So like
that's why I said the FBI is taking. So the FBI is taking action against one person based on this. So there was a bit of stun. Some people were stunned because the FBI said that they were going to look into this more than just the Ford case.
Yep.
Right? And then I said, well, they absolutely should, because every one of those cases is coming forward. Should be investigated.
Yep.
Now, I have a suspicion that you're right. It's just going to be the FBI basically going, yeah, we're following our procedure, and our procedure says guilty until proven innocent. Innocent until proven guilty. So
well, yeah. So I mean, I think that's not really their job. Their job is to find evidence, and it's going to be very hard to find evidence because there's no it's not like there's a rape kit involved. There's no actual sort of physical thing to tie anybody to any actual crime. It's all based on memories of an event. And in the case of both Ford and Ramirez, they can't remember the exact date. It's of course. I'm 35. If you ask me of a thing that happened 15 years ago, like when I was just in finishing high school, about a party that I was supposed to be at, I'm unlikely to remember any details for it. So let alone, a period of time, the length of my entire life. But and here's the but. This isn't a criminal trial. Like he's not on trial to avoid going to prison. It's whether he should get a job with these allegations hanging over him. I mean, there is a legit concern in that, if a cloud, because the Republicans could just vote to confirm him and, probably get through. But then every time he's involved in a case,
I'll be honest,
this is going to be a cloud hanging over those judgments.
So what annoys me is if this is the thing that prevents him from getting in, there are actually very good reasons not to allow Brett Kavanaugh.
Yep.
The best one I can think of is privacy is a thing of the past based on his.
Yep.
He would basically give a carte blanche. He couldn't give a carte blanche, right? There's the entire freaking there's the entire 9.
Yep.
But he would definitely be a vote that consistently voted to allow the state to have more and more power on right? Now, I think I've heard the flip side of that is he's really good on the Second Amendment and he's super fantastic on. You mentioned it.
The Second Amendment and the stuff to do with sort of states' rights, and there's a few other things where he's from what I remember, he's pretty good on.
Yeah, but he's really bad on the Fourth Amendment, and he's really bad on the Fifth.
Yeah.
So, look, in my mind, I think if he gets knocked back for this, it's possible that Trump will nominate someone in the same vein.
Yep.
Right? And they'll go down with less sort of friction because you can't be seen if Congress can't be seen as antagonistic and just constantly just opposing everyone that Trump puts through because it makes them just look like they're just against the president. They're not working towards the running of the country, and they still need to win their elections, right? So. I'm of the opinion that he shouldn't be there, but I would like them to do it on the basis of the fact that there's really good reasons.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is something that we talked about a bit before we started, which was there is a bit of a split within sort of, there's a few people at Cato who say he's okay, a few people at Cato say he's bad. I think Damon Root at Reason is a bit, he's just a mixed bag. You've got, what's his name? I mentioned him, Judge Napolitano, Andrew Napolitano. He thinks he's the devil. So there's a variety of views, and I think everybody who has a view would agree, like in libertarian world, we should be debating the merit of him as a justice, but that's not how this world works. That nobody in the Senate really gives a shit about that stuff, and now they definitely don't give a shit because it's now just a political fight between Republicans and Democrats. And I mean, from what I understand, most of the other people on the short list that was given. Because for those who aren't aware, when Trump came in, he basically had a list of, I think it was 25 names that was essentially presented to him by the Heritage Foundation, which is like a conservative organization. And he said that whoever he nominates to the Supreme Court will come from that list. And that's been the case so far. And from what I understand of the short list, there was a list of 5 names, of which Kavanaugh was one. Most of the other people on that list are also not very good on a lot of these issues because the Heritage Foundation itself is not a libertarian organization. So, no, I think it's one of those things that I think libertarians, in almost every circumstance, are going to be unhappy with who gets nominated to the Supreme Court because, well, they don't agree with the kind of thing. Most of the people in the federal judiciary, which seems to be the main place they're drawing from, they're not really necessarily inclined to think like libertarians. So, it's just one of those things. But yeah.
Could be worse though. But
probably true.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. In the sense that from the list there could be. Now, the other thing is, I have a suspicion that I actually think this might end up being a maypole on the culture
Yep.
wars that actually works to the benefit of Trump if Kavanaugh gets rejected.
Yep.
Because if he gets rejected, the narrative will be these feminists are crazy. Look how they want just the word of a woman, right, with no evidence to end up destroying a man's career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's
right, and that's what,
and for the Democrats, they're putting up rapists on anti-abortion rapists for Supreme Court. So I mean, I guess for both sides, and we should mention that November 6th, I think, is when the midterm elections are. So this is
November
is essentially what we would call
in a month's time.
We were essentially talking about the pre-election campaign. If this was Australia, they would have already sort of put Parliament on hold and called an election. So it's really it's not. This was never going to be a thing where reasoned, sensible, cool-minded debate was going to happen. The Democrats were opposed to Kavanaugh even before the process started. The Republicans obviously wanting to put him forward before the process even started, and this has just amplified it to ratcheted it up to the volume to 11.
Yeah. But see, the reason why I think this will actually work against the Democrats is because of the fact that, look, it's his, like, with the objection of, so one of the things about Ford, right, is that she is a massive Clinton fan, right? And people have dug up a whole bunch of information on her and stuff like that, despite the fact that, Brett Kavanaugh, breaking down onto tears in his testimony and saying that this is a political attack.
I think he came out swinging. I don't think he broke down in tears. I think he got really angry, which of course was then another more evidence that he was unfit for the job.
Yeah, which I would take it as I would take it as emotional or something like that. Like I'm just like, mate, this you're going for the highest court, right? You're gonna have to deal with the fact that people are gonna not
be fair. Well, having said that, though, Gorsuch was in a similar position earlier, this year, and it didn't quite have this same level of heatedness. So, I mean, I guess that was different because he was replacing Anthony Scalia, who was a conservative, where this time he's replacing Kennedy, who was kind of a libertarianish liberal.
Well, he was in the center.
But sort of more on the liberal side than not. So, I guess it's Anthony Kennedy. That's the Kennedy we're talking about, who's stepping down. So I guess it's more heated because this potentially. I mean, it doesn't. From what I understand, again, this is from sort of listening to libertarian legal theorists in America. This doesn't potentially change the balance of the court. It just changes who's the swing vote. So previously, Anthony Kennedy was the swing vote. Now moved to being John Roberts, who is the Supreme Court, the Supreme Chief Justice. So, and he tends to not want big, dramatic results. Like he just wants nice, smooth transitions, not big swings in terms of kind of the changes to the outcome. So it may in the end not be one of those, not be overly dramatic, even if Kavanaugh gets in. But of course, that's not how political debates work.
Well, as much of a big deal, as much of a non-deal as this would be, if I think the big reason why the Democrats are hoping to get someone in are hoping to cause trouble for Trump is because they're hoping to buy time for Ginsburg to retire, right? Because Ginsburg is really old now.
She's like 80 something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real danger of her carking it on the bench,
and she is like a raving liberal,
she's extremely left wing. So what they're hoping is to delay this enough to get that moderate in, so that when Ginsburg does go, right, they're able, at worst, they get another moderate in.
Well, that's. I mean, I guess the political landscape changes if the Democrats get control of the Senate in November. So there's only two votes. Like I think the Republicans basically the Debs need to win 2 seats and then they've got control, and that's I mean, there's still the lame duck session. So potentially, if Ginsburg dies in the next year or so, or what it would be, it'd be January. It changes over. So you've still got another good half a year, 6 months before Dems would even take control. But yeah.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that they're hoping to try and delay it by at least that 6 months.
Sure.
That's their aim. And that's why they keep saying, we're going to delay it, we're going to delay it, we're going to delay it. Because they want that Senate control.
Sure, absolutely. Well, any final thoughts before we end the show?
Yeah, I hate yours.
I hate politics.
It is so...
Yeah. We'll joke. Yeah, it's just... I mean, this is your brain on politics, so...